All right, Governor, what do you make of all these past 2 weeks, the charges and countercharges? You go, and then Senator.
Well, it's kind of politics, and John and I shook hands, and we said we weren't going to run ads, and I kind of smiled my way through the early primaries and got defined. I'm not going to let it happen again. And we shook hands, and unfortunately, he ran an ad that equated me to Bill Clinton. He questioned my trustworthiness.
Are you saying he broke the agreement with you?
I'm just saying you can disagree on issues. We'll debate issues. But whatever you do, don't equate my integrity and trustworthiness to Bill Clinton. That's about as low a blow as you can give in the Republican primary.
And that's what got you mad to sort of fight back.
Well, I stand by my ads.
You wouldn't change any?
No, I stand by what I'm trying to do. I mean, when the man says that I'm spending all the surplus on tax cuts and it's not true, I'm going to define what reality is.
Senator McCain, did you break a promise?
Well, let me tell you what happened. There was an ad run against me. We ran a counter ad in New Hampshire. Governor Bush took the ad down. And then I was beat up very badly by all of his surrogates, called Clinton light, called a hypocrite. I mean, you've seen, here in South Carolina, you've seen it. Turn on the radio, turn on the television, and unfortunately now pick up the telephone, and you'll hear a negative attack against John McCain. But let me tell you what really went over the line. Governor Bush had an event, and he paid for it, and stood next to a spokesman for a fringe veterans group. That fringe veteran said that John McCain had abandoned the veterans. Now, I don't know if you can understand this, George, but that really hurts.
Yeah.
That really hurts. And so 5 United States senators, Vietnam veterans, heroes, some of them really incredible heroes, wrote George a letter and said, apologize.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed.
Yeah, let me speak.
You should be ashamed. Now, if you want
is he responsible for what someone else says?
Well, this same man, he stood next to him. It was his event. This same man had attacked his father viciously.
Yeah, he did.
It was remarkable. So I'd be glad to tell you the rest of the story if you'd let me when it's appropriate.
Well, let him respond on that point.
But
Alan will come into it.
You should be ashamed of
sponsoring
an event with that man there who had attacked your own father.
Let me finish.
You should be ashamed.
Yeah, John. I believe that you served our country nobly. And I've said it over and over again. That man wasn't speaking for me. He may have a dispute with you. Let me finish, please. Please.
He's listed as your
Let me finish. Let me finish. The man was not speaking for me. If you want to know my opinion about you, John, you served our country admirably and strongly. And I'm proud of your record just like you are. And I don't appreciate what he said about my dad either, but let me say something. If you're going to hold me responsible for what people for me say, I'm going to do the same for you. And let me give you one example. Warren Rudman, the man who you had as your campaign man in New Hampshire, said about the Christian Coalition that they're bigots. He talked about the Christian Coalition in a way that was incredibly strong. I know you don't believe that, do you?
George, he's entitled to his opinion.
Well, so
on
is
that
this man.
issue. You paid for an event.
So is this man.
You paid for an event and stood next to a person, and when you were asked if you would repudiate him, you said no.
No, John, let me tell you what
happened after that, if I could.
But I want Alan to give me one thing.
Okay.
If you have a surrogate making a speech for you today, are you responsible for what he says?
I'm sorry. I really am sitting here wondering, because they said we were going out to 202 countries. And is this kind of pointless squabbling really what we want them to see? We're talking about electing the President of the United States.
But it happened.
No, happened or not happened. And I don't know whether this is the influence of the media corrupting our process or whether it's that personal ambition becomes a substitute for a real focus on substance. But it seems to me we've got a lot more important things. We have got a country that has abandoned its most profound and fundamental principle, killing babies in the womb every day in contradiction of the Declaration of Independence. We have got a country with an income tax system that enslaves its people and that needs to put that back in their hands. We have got a school system that needs to be put back in the hands of parents. And all I'm sitting here listening to is these two guys go on about their ads.
Well, because he asked about it.
I know he asked. But if you don't mind my saying so, it seems to me, that let their ad people get in the back room and fight it out and let the American people hear what they've got to hear about the issue.
Let's discuss the issue. Let's discuss the issue.
That's what we're going to, all right.
Let me just finish up, okay? So here's what happened. we ran an ad that was a response ad. At a town hall meeting, a mother stood up. She said, Senator McCain, my son was 13 last year. We had a lot of trouble of explaining things to him that went on in Washington. She said, now he's 14. He's told me not long ago, John McCain is my hero. He's the man I want to be like. Well, last night he came into her room, she said, and he had tears in his eyes because he answered the phone. And the phone call, even though he told the caller that he was 14, said, do you know that John McCain is a liar and a thief and a cheat? Well, that night I called my people together. I said, take down our response ad. We're running nothing but a positive campaign from now on. I committed to that. I promised that.
Now,
George,
are you saying
I hope
that
you
George...
will take yours off the air.
Please, are you saying that Governor Bush was responsible for that call?
I don't know who was responsible for it, but I know that the attacks go on.
Let me just say one thing. Let me say one thing about all this business, John.
I told you, I pulled them all down.
You didn't pull this ad.
Yes, I did.
This that ended up in the man's windshield yesterday? That questions my... This is an attack piece.
That is not by my campaign.
What says paid for by John McCain?
That is not by my campaign. That is not by my campaign.
Well, then somebody's putting stuff out. I agree with you.
But you're putting out stuff that is unbelievable, George, and it's got to stop. And your ads have got to stop.
Are you going to... Well, let me put it... I can end this now. Are you going to pull anything?
I'm going to stand by what I'm putting on TV. And what I put on TV was looking in that camera and saying, you can disagree with me on issues, John, but do not question my trustworthiness, and do not compare me to Bill Clinton.
And you changed your ads already?
We've pulled all ours down. There's nothing negative on the air, and we have insisted that there not be. Meanwhile...
And you disclaim what Rudman said if he said it. You don't agree with that. And you disclaim what the veteran said if he said it.
This man served our country well.
I did not abandon the veterans. You should have at that point repudiated. You should have repudiated your guy.
I stood up there at that press conference and said, John, you're a man who served our country well.
I'm Luke Skywalker, getting out of the Death Star.
Nasty has to be both ways.
So we're having a lot of fun.
Hey, John, one thing is, listen.
Very, very much.
You're playing the victim here. Wait a minute. Let me say one other thing about Clinton. There's not a lot of mothers and dads naming their sons Bill Clinton.
5 United States senators, Vietnam veterans, heroes, some of them really incredible heroes, wrote George a letter and said, apologize.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed.
Yeah, let me speak.
You should be ashamed.
No.
Governor Bush, Mr. Trump has suggested that your views on immigration are influenced by your Mexican-born wife. He said that, quote, if my wife were from Mexico, I think I would have a soft spot for people from Mexico. Did Mr. Trump go too far in invoking your wife?
He did. He did. You're proud of your family, just as I am.
Correct.
To subject my wife into the middle of a raucous political conversation was completely inappropriate, and I hope you apologize for that, Donald.
Well, I have to tell you, I hear phenomenal things. I hear your wife is a lovely woman.
She is.
I
She's
don't
fantastic.
know her, and this
she
is a total
absolutely the love of my life, and she's right here. And why don't you apologize for her?
No, I won't
right
do that
now.
because I said nothing wrong, but I do hear she's a lovely woman.
So here's the deal.